Let's get to the West. Los Angeles Rams, your division champs from a year ago. Where did you have them going in your mock?
I wanted to just get another receiver out there. Okay. You know what? I know that my biggest need is shown as wide receiver for the Rams, but there was a flurry of positions that I had written in there on my note card, but I ended up going with Jaden Higgins. And I feel like you need to fill out the volume for Matt Stafford's throwing ability. And in order to do that, you need to plug in pieces that can go out there and be part of that mad scientist Sean McVay's offense. Jaden Higgins will fit in great with the Rams, and he'll be an immediate contributor.
Do run a lot of 3 wide, and obviously like Devontae is a very short-term move at this point in time. So I wouldn't hate it whatsoever. It fits their mold, right? They like guys that can block. He can do that. I went with corner, though. Your corners right now, Darius Williams, Kella Witherspoon, Quentin Lake. It's not great. The problem is I don't foresee the Rams with how analytically driven that organization is. I don't think pick 26 is going to be a corner. They are no dummies. They know you can find corners day 2, day 3. So I wrote for them Jacob Parrish, the Kansas State corner at pick 90. He's a guy that won't be for everyone. He's 5'9". The Rams don't give a darn about traits at corner. They are not the team that has cutoffs for height, has cutoffs for arm length. You see it with them drafting Kobe Turner.
Puka Nacua, prime example.
Yes, they will go draft
football guys
who play good football. Yeah. Jacob Parrish, if he did anything at Kansas State, he played good football. He has really good traits, though, for an undersized corner, too.
That's why they drafted my brother Chris. He's just a football player. People said, 40 time could have been faster.
It wasn't Snead back then.
No, I'm just saying they've got a rich history of just drafting great football players.
Dating all the way back to 2009. All right. Seattle Seahawks. What's their biggest need?
Sun. You ever been to Seattle?
Yeah.
It's like you go to that coffee store that they're famous for. You better get 2 coffees, okay? Because you're lacking in vitamin D. And you know what's worse than lacking in vitamin D? Showing up to play defensive line and having to line up against a rookie by the name of Tyler Booker, who is wearing neon green and teal, and he's just coming to rip your soul out, play in, play out. That's Tyler Booker, offensive line. They need as much help as they can get there. They're trying to reinvent the wheel with something that was already working with Sam Darnold in there, Geno Smith out, DK Metcalf out. Well, let's go get some protection for Sam Darnold because he was used to that this past season.
Dude, their interior stinks. And I agree. I think that's their biggest need. I went a different route because I know John Schneider, and I know that there's a very slim chance he does address it.
He hates guards.
But
this is not John Schneider's draft. This is our draft.
This is our draft. They did go Christian Haynes last year. I like Christian Haynes. I think that at least solidifies one of the guard positions. I think I'd be surprised if they went guard round 1. I went with speed wide receiver. When you have Jackson Smith and Jigba, when you have Cooper Kupp, you're kind of running into this issue of who goes vertical. They signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I don't think anyone at this point in time is afraid of Marquez Valdez-Scantling. 31 years old, going to be this fall. The speed is not 4.3 anymore. So I'm going to go get a 4.3 guy. There's a lot in this draft class. This is a draft class for speed wide receivers, whether it's Isaiah Bond, whether it's Ty Felton, whether it's Jalen Lane, whether it's Matthew Golden, whether it's Dante Thornton. There's a ton of dudes running sub 4.4, but the one I put for them is Jalen Noel, Iowa State. To me, he has the best combination of like physicality along with speed and ball tracking, good hands. He's obviously on the shorter side, smaller side, but you just need someone who can be that vertical threat. He ran a 4.39 at the combine. So pick 82. If you can get Jalen Noel, run that card in, get some speed, get a nice wide receiver 3, call it a day.
Love that.
Arizona Cardinals. Another team with just like, there's a few needs here that need.
You've been banging the table for DT for this team for a long time.
What did you give them in your mock?
Well, I went wide receiver because you're talking about Matthew Golden just a second ago, and I think he would fit great in this offense because you can never – it's like with Jaden Daniels, the ability to extend plays. You need as many of these receivers that are, whether it's quick game or after the quarterback decides to scamper, you need people that can make plays. And they've got some guys right now. They've got a tight end. They've got a number one wide receiver, Marvin Harrison. Go ahead, throw this guy in there. He can take the top off of defense. He can be not a gadget type guy, but he can be a true tool in your offense to open up the field for your other playmakers. And he can go make plays on the ball. 1,000 yards, almost 20 yards a catch for this guy this past season in Texas.
Yeah, I don't know if after wide receiver round 1 last year, I think they go DT round 1. Is if I had to bet one position, just given how weak it is in this in that building, they went out and paid Dalvin Tomlinson a ton of money to try to fill that, and he's more of a plugger. So I gave him Walter Nolan, pick 16, to be more of a penetrator. You need a 3-tech who can get up the football field, impact the passing game. To me, there's no better guy in this draft class after, obviously, Mason Graham.
They had Robert and Kim Diche do that. That guy. Let me tell you about Freak Show. That guy was a penetrator and an explosive dude. But, man, he could have been great, Mike. He could have been really good.
I heard some stories about him that he was just like weirdo.
Well, he's a D lineman. They're all a little wacky, Mike.
Chris Little. Yeah,
Chris is wacky. He's probably floating a river in a pumpkin right now, somewhere in like the Delaware Water Gap.
All right, last team. Your dregs of the West last year, the San Francisco 49ers. How the mighty have fallen here. And we both had the same idea. The mighty fell because their defensive line was ass. Mighty fell because they didn't put pressure outside of Joey Bosa last year. Excuse me, Nick Bosa. Get him confused. Last year. So we just anywhere along the defensive line you can go. Where did you have him going?
So I play NCAA on the PlayStation, and they have the players' names on there, which is why when I first was hearing about Loveland, the tight end, I was like, oh, my God, I've scored 1 million touchdowns with that guy. He is really good. Well, I make 1 million tackles for loss with this defensive lineman, Derek Harmon from the University of Oregon. And
Pete Briscoe's guy. Pete Briscoe thinks he's a top 10 player in this class.
I'm happy because he's a Duck, and I like to celebrate Duck success. Derek Harmon, you are a 49er. Right down the 5 freeway. You can stop at that. I think it's a Medford, Oregon in and out. It might be the only one that's in Oregon, and then you just continue down the 5, pull up to Levi's and get in your locker, son. We need you. We need you to play some defensive line.
I went edge, and I didn't go first round. Now, maybe you could draft a Shamar Stewart round 1, maybe a Michael Williams. I wouldn't balk too hard. Yikes! I just reverted back to my list. Balk too hard at those, but I don't have an edge after. I guess Jalen Walker I have as a top 10 player in this class, but I don't have an edge as like a great value, and I'm not sure he's necessarily the type of edge they want in that scheme. So I went Nick Scorton, the Texas A&M defensive end, for pick 43. I think he's a guy that if you put in that building with Chris Kosterick, their defensive line coach, and across from Nick Bosa, obviously, and just coached him hard at the next level,
he's 20.
He could pay off big dividends. He is, I think, the second youngest player in this entire draft class. He doesn't turn 21 until August. So right on the eve of the season, the guy can finally have a drink of alcohol. So
I watched this guy play against all the tackles that we were scouting a couple weeks ago. And, obviously Stewart jumps off the film, but this guy is a brick shithouse. I mean, he really is. And you need that on the edge now with how attacking these offensive lines are playing.
And he, compared to Shamar, is so much more fluid. I mean, you just see it with his spin moves. You see it with his ability to combo, one move to another. It's just, he has the type of skill set I like off the edge, which is just like coordination. And he has a kind of a trump card, which is his size, 6'4", in the 270s. He's a big, burly defensive end, and then he can kind of get to the edge and bend a little. So, yeah, I'm a fan. And I think at pick 43, if you can get his talents, you are hitting a home run with a guy like that.